Okay, I'm back. I want to thank Brenda and Melissa for the opportunity to speak to you again, and big thanks to all of you who came here to shoot clay pigeons and support people and families living with ALS. 2 years ago, I told you about the work of the ALS Association, and how it gives me hope. Last year, I switched gears and spoke about how the moon can remind you of the spiritual changes that I've experienced in my 14 years living with ALS. I'm going to do something different this year. I'm going to put my doctor cap on, and give you a medical and technology update on advances in ALS, then I will tell you what you can do, besides donating here, to advocate for those living with ALS. In 2014, over 17 million people dumped buckets of ice water on their heads, and this raised over $115 million for the ALS Association. More importantly, it increased awareness, and suddenly ALS was a trendy disease. That money, much of it matched with public and private funds, set off a wave of new research, and now we're seeing the results. So with my doctor's hat on, I want to tell you about some of them. When I was diagnosed in 2011, I began a drug called Riluzole, which was approved in 1995 when it showed it helped patients live about 3 months longer. This was the only treatment back then. In 2017, after showing a 6-month survival benefit in some groups, a second drug called Radicava was approved. It was an IV infusion, which limited its use, but in 2022, an oral form was approved, and use increased dramatically. I'm currently taking both these drugs. The most exciting new drug, Qalsody, was approved in 2023. It's only available for those with a specific gene mutation of the superoxide dismutase gene, let's just call it SOD1, which accounts for about 5% of ALS. However, its benefit far surpasses that of Riluzole and Radicava. I know one person who was in the clinical trial and has continued after the trial, and he's doing so well I wouldn't know he had ALS by our monthly Zoom meetings. There are even case reports of some reversals, where people have regained some lost function. That just doesn't happen in ALS. Now, the exciting Atlas trial is underway, testing Qalsody in people who have the SOD1 mutation, but don't have ALS yet. This is especially relevant to children who have a parent with ALS caused by that one mutation. We expect to begin to see the first results in 2027. Why has Qalsody been so successful? It has to do with genetic advancements. I promise this is the only science slide I will show you. It shows the known genetic causes of ALS from 1995 to the present. In the bottom left, in 1995, we only knew about the SOD1 mutation. You can see the dramatic rise in known genes as the graph goes up and to the right. You can see by the number of dots representing different known genes, that our knowledge has significantly increased since 2009. 14 years ago, I was told that about 10% of ALS was hereditary and caused by a gene mutation. We have now found over 30 gene mutations that cause approximately 25% of ALS. We are learning so much about ALS by studying these gene mutations, and I expect more drugs targeting these mutations in the future. Steve Gleason, former New Orleans Saints player turned ALS advocate after his diagnosis in 2011, has said, "Technology is my cure." The Team Gleason Foundation has spearheaded many technology advancements that allow people to have lives full of meaning and connection, where in the past many gave up when they lost the ability to communicate. I made this entire video using an eye gaze computer that tracks my eyes and allows me to type, speak, and do nearly everything you can, on your computer. I wouldn't be here if eye gaze technology didn't exist. Now, a brief overview of some other exciting technology. Voice banking is a way to record yourself saying specific phrases so that a custom voice can be made if you lose yours in the future. I did this 13 years ago, but the voice was awkward and difficult to understand, so I use this voice that comes with Microsoft Windows.
I think it's better than this one that sounds like a stalker or a serial killer.
I use this one to embarrass my boys when I'm having gender identity issues.
The technology is much better now, and they are even working to use just a few voice clips from the past and combine that with a voice donor who has similar voice characteristics. Why does this matter? Communication with text-to-speech strips out all meaning and inflection in speech, so a simple request sounds no different than, "I love you dearly." I've driven about 260 miles, roughly the distance from Mitchell to Rapid City, using only my eyes. Here's a video of me driving with my eyes. An interface, called Ability Drive, uses my eye gaze tablet to allow me to adjust my chair position and even drive using just my eyes. It became available to the public in July 2021, and I got mine in November that year. I love the freedom and independence it gives me, and my family loves watching people stare as I drive by them. Earlier, I mentioned how ALS impacts communication. A normal person speaks about 140 words per minute. I can type about 20. By the time I type something to say, it's not uncommon that the conversation has moved on to another topic. But artificial intelligence may soon change that. This summer I tested a novel communication app that listens to the conversation, and gives suggestions created by artificial intelligence to suggest things to say in response. My favorite feature was to have it suggest sarcastic responses. I gave them a ton of feedback, and I hope to see advancements in this technology in the near future. ALS can sometimes affect the eye muscles after many years. This would make eye gaze communication impossible. You may have heard of Elon Musk's experimental brain-computer interface, Neuralink, that places electrodes directly on the brain to allow it to control a computer. Neuralink requires open brain surgery, but I'm working with a company that puts electrodes over the motor cortex, by navigating the veins from the neck up into the brain, much like a heart stent is placed. Now before you imagine the dangerous situation of a computer saying all my thoughts out loud, that's not how it works. The electrodes in a brain-computer interface are placed over the motor cortex of the brain, and they sense when someone is moving a body part, or in my case trying to move something that doesn't actually move. These signals allow these attempted movements to be translated into mouse movements. For example, I could try to make a fist with my right hand, and the mouse would move right. If I squeeze my jaw closed, that could be a mouse click. So it's basically a similar computer interface as my eye gaze, but it reads signals in the motor cortex instead. It would be slow, but better than no communication. I can envision a future where a brain-computer interface is combined with an artificial intelligence communication app to allow a few mouse inputs to generate near-normal speech. Now, I'm going to remove my doctor hat and put on my emotional persuasion hat. Since January, it seems that everything in government is on the chopping block. I'm not dumb enough to argue whether that's good or bad, but I do know it's bad for those living with ALS. I worry that all this progress I've just described could be halted if the government decides that funding scientific research is no longer a priority. The ALS Association is doing advocacy at all levels of government. Veterans are twice as likely to get ALS as the general population, so you would think that the government would want to do right by our veterans to continue this progress. So what can you do? I've written letters to my congressional representatives. I'm just one voice, but a crowd of voices is louder and more difficult to ignore. You can join mine by sending online messages to your representatives easily from their website. You can call your local field office to share your opinion. Participate in your local walk to defeat ALS. Part of your donations today will support the work of the ALS Association, which is doing their best to prevent research funding from drying up. You can tell people your story and your connection to people living with ALS. Our kids made a video last May for ALS Awareness Month. They posted it on their social media, and over 5,000 people have watched it. I think the best way to end today is with their voices, not mine. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to you again this year, and on behalf of all families living with ALS, thank you for your generosity.
Hey, I'm Maya.
I'm Noah.
And I'm Lincoln.
May is ALS Awareness Month, and we wanted to take a moment to share our dad's story as an example of strength, resilience, and hope despite adversity.
Our dad, Eric, was born in rural Minnesota, and he grew up as a three-sport athlete before pursuing football at the collegiate level at Gustavus Adolphus. He studied biochemistry and chemistry as a pre-medical student athlete. He then went on to attend University of Minnesota Medical School, which led him to family medicine residency in Ogden, Utah, and a sports medicine fellowship in Salt Lake City, Utah, where he became a sports medicine physician.
After moving up to Montana shortly after the birth of me, his daughter, in 2004, our dad worked as a spine specialist in an orthopedic clinic in Montana for a couple years prior to being diagnosed with ALS at the young age of 36. The three of us were all under 7 years old at the time of his diagnosis. He and our mom, Andrea, had been married for 11 years.
Our dad continued to work for 2 years after his diagnosis before retiring and taking on a new role as a teacher to homeschool the three of us, who all will be attending college this fall. Our dad uses an eye gaze computer that tracks his eye movement to type and even speak for him, and this technology has allowed him to continue to serve an active role in our lives through educating us and preparing us for college, both academically and personally.
Our dad has enjoyed being our biggest supporter in our own athletic careers in swimming and gymnastics, and he looks forward to continuing to watch us grow in college, our careers, and our personal lives. Our dad was an avid skier, outdoor enthusiast, mountain biker, and sports fanatic prior to his diagnosis, so it's no wonder where the three of us got our intense passion for outdoor activities from.
His current hobbies include watching any sports, but especially football, and continuing to learn and stay connected thanks to modern technology. He eats through a feeding tube, moves via an electric chair, and breathes through a trach and ventilator. Our dad is an incredible example of the importance of gratitude, the impact of resilience and strength, and the power of never giving up. He continues to inspire many every day, and he strives to help researchers make progress to eventually find a cure.
Our mom, Andrea, has also been an inspiration every day and has given up aspects of her life to help our dad keep going and to help the three of us thrive despite adversity. Together, our parents have shown us the power and faith in never giving up.
We never got the typical childhood we thought we'd get, but through this, we've learned to become stronger as a family. Get involved to raise awareness, advocate for change, and support families like ours and the 300,000 others worldwide who continue to find light even on the darkest days. As our dad always says, today's the best day I have today. It takes a community. Let's keep working together for this cause. Hope lives here.